Prof. Hi.
Prof, how are you? Dr. Gashigi,
Yes, Prof.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think we just have to wait for people to come in now.
All right.
Yeah, I'm seeing actually we already have 34 people in the audience. Can you just tell Dr. Miima that she can now log in, please? I told her to wait a bit, but you can just give her a call to me. Is that okay, Doctor? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Prof.
You may mute.
Yes.
Yeah,
It looks
good.
like you have started and the guest is in.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, Dr. Abuyeka is already there. I can see her.
Yes.
Dr. Abuyeka?
Yes.
Oh, good, good, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Priscilla is there.
Okay.
I can see the participants coming in. We have 40 already in the room. Yeah, sorry for the late start. It was a license issue. We could not start this until the previous meeting had ended. So that was the hitch that we had. But Dr. Miima, thank you very much for your patience.
It's okay, it's okay.
Yeah. So,
Dr. Miima?
Yes.
Yes, karibu to KCA University.
Thank you.
Yes, you are actually next door. Yeah, how is KU?
We are doing well and keeping safe.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, are you already in session?
No. But we are doing our online teaching. Our online teaching is going on.
Yeah. Okay.
That is for the digital students.
Oh, I see. So what proportion of the students are in that digital platform?
There are quite a number, about 20,000. but
Okay.
it cuts across all the faculties.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So actually, if you wanted to engage other students, you could do the same, just expand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's my alma mater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When did you leave KU?
Yes, I was in KU
Uh-huh.
many years ago.
Many years ago.
Yeah,
Like 20 years?
more than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm also an alumni.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, you notice that we have a number of members of staff who are from KU.
Mm-hmm.
I see Dr. Yashig is one of them.
Yeah, well, I think that one we have a brief history with her when she was doing her PhD. We have a brief history with her.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually evaluated her thesis. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think what you need to do is to say that a fraction of our earnings from KCA University is due to you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we can have those royalties, I think we'll be rich.
That's good.
Yeah,
And we also feel happy.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's exactly the same way we feel, because when I see a number of them and I see them doing well, and then I identify myself as a product of KU.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've not really had a lot of chance to distance myself from KU.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. Yeah, karibu.
Asante.
Yeah. Yeah, so Prof. Prof. Ogao.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, I see people are coming in. Quite a number have already come in, so I think we can start anytime you. Yeah.
That's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think we just start shortly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Just give them a few minutes, man.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Miima.
Yes.
Let me just introduce, as we wait for people to come, maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
Professor Abuyeka, you've been talking to Professor Abuyeka. And Professor Abuyeka is a Deputy Vice Chancellor.
Okay.
In charge of academics, research, and innovation.
Wow, thank you. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Yeah. Our Vice Chancellor couldn't join us because he has another meeting going on. I'm informed. Of course, you know Priscilla. She's the Dean in charge of the Faculty of Education and Arts.
Okay, I know her. I know her.
Yeah, and then at least you had communication. We had some correspondence with you.
Yes.
I'm the director in charge of the Center for Faculty Excellence. Yeah.
I'm happy to see your face.
Oh,
we were actually communicating remotely.
Yes, yes. I would really love to see your face, Doctor.
You will see it.
I will. Okay. Sawa.
Okay.
Good. So as we wait a little bit, I just want to inform the audience. Actually, they're trickling in. We are quite a number now. I think quorum, we can start. So the audience, just be aware that that your microphones are muted.
Yes.
And your video counts, of course, they've been turned off. There is a facility down there, a functionality for Q&A. So for the audience, people attending, the faculty, if you have any question, put it under the Q&A. Don't put it under the chat. We'll try as much as possible to read through the chat, but if you put it under the Q&A, it's easy for it to be picked. And at the end of the session, we can ask Dr. Miima to respond to that.
Okay.
And we hope to have many people attending, but we reach our limit, then we have a live stream on Facebook, and today we'll also have it on YouTube. So the link will be sent right after this for those people who cannot get into our Zoom meeting. And yeah, so if there's any issue again, you can get in touch. You can send an email after this through the address you're seeing down there, KCA University at kca.ac. So I think we are ready to start, I think. And let me see if Bunyasi is around so that she can open the meeting for us with a word of prayer. Let me just give her the right to check. Dr. Bunyasi. Yes, she's there. Dr. Bunyasi. Dr. Bunyasi, can you?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Bunyasi. I think it would be good if you open for us with a word of prayer, please.
Okay, let us bow for a word of prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we bow before your throne of mercy this wonderful hour with thanksgiving in our hearts, thanking you for taking care of all of us. Thank you, dear Father, even for our university, KCA University. Lord, we want to surrender all of us unto the able hands. We thank you even for the efforts, the university management, the Vice Chancellor, the DVC, and all the various heads are putting in place, dear Father, to enable us move on with the remote engagement to support our students. We pray that you continue to guide us. And even for this meeting, Lord, we surrender ourselves to you. We surrender even our guest speaker unto the able hands, even our facilitator, all that are in attendance. We pray that, Lord, you give us wisdom and knowledge, that we may understand that which we are going to be taught, that, Lord, it may be of use to us and even to our students and even the entire university. We welcome your presence. Go with us and guide us. For we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Dr. Bunyasi. I will invite the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Bagakas, to say a few, just to briefly open up the session. And then after that, I'll ask Dr. Gashigi to invite Dr. Miima to give her presentation. So Professor Bagaka, please, and then Dr. Gashigi.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Gao, for organizing this. This is another wonderful opportunity for us to add value to the work we do. Colleagues who have joined the webinar, karibu sana. This is one of the series of webinars we have had, especially since the beginning of the COVID-19. Just a few things I wanted to mention before I invite Dr. Miima is that the kind of things we are doing now, they appear as if it is a response to the challenges we have from COVID-19. But as we go through them, we discover that these are things we should have been thinking about to begin with. So really what COVID-19 has done is to wake us up so that we can now start to reassess the way we conduct our business. It is a wake-up call to know that there are certain things out there which are very valuable, but we have really not tapped into them. And I think when all is said and done and the COVID-19 goes away, there are several things which we will have learned much faster than if COVID-19 did not come. So in a way, as bad as it has been, it has messed up our economy, it has disrupted our institutions, but indeed it's something which perhaps may have added value to what we do. So to Dr. Miima, I want to welcome you to KCA University, but I want you to understand KCA University in two ways. One is a neighbor. You know, the proximity by itself, you know, means a lot because we are on a thick highway. It will take a few minutes to dash here and there. And I think this has actually shown that there is a lot we can do together as partners.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually seen quite a number of programs, whether it is training our students about photography and others. This has actually been a very good partnership. And today's webinar is actually one of those to show the benefits you can get from a neighbor. The second thing I want you to notice is the way we have benefited from KU. In the audience, you may actually be able to count the number of faculty who are actually products of KU, including myself. So we really wanted to continue to appreciate KU for what it is actually doing to KCA University. So nice. Again, I know you have a busy schedule. I want you to be comfortable and feel at home as you do this. And for my colleagues at KCA University, I see this as one of the series of webinars we are actually going to have. The very last one we had the previous week was about the online pedagogy by Professor Otieno from Alabama. And now the one we have here, which is online instructional methodology. And I know there are a few others which are coming. And I think at the end of it, we could be able to say, you know what, professionally, we are also growing. So welcome everyone, and thanks for being part of this. And again, Dr. Miima, karibuni, and maybe one of these days we'll be able to see you in person.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you. Back to you, Professor Gao.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Dr. Kashiki, can you just introduce the speaker, please, and then invite her to take charge?
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Professor Bagakas. And I also want to thank the entire KCA University management for giving members of faculty this opportunity. It's indeed an opportunity for enlightening ourselves. I want to welcome Dr. Florence Abuyeka Miima on board. And who is Dr. Miima? Dr. Miima is a senior lecturer in Kenyatta University, serving at the Department of Communication Technology. It is famously known as Comtech. Dr. Miima is an expert in educational technology, and she's also an accomplished teacher and a researcher. She has a lot of experience in the department, serving as a communication technology instructor. Actually, she has served for the last 15 years. So I would comfortably say that she's an expert in educational technology. I want to say that she's the best for us now as we prepare to engage on remote learning, because we need to be guided on how to go about it. And just as Professor Bagakas has shared, she's here to build on what Professor Otieno shared with us last week. Dr. Miima has also majored on the integration of ICT tools in teaching And since we are just about to do that, I believe we need someone to guide us on how to do it best. So it's indeed an opportunity. It will also be a great opportunity for us to benchmark with Kenyatta University. Like we have been told, we are neighbors, and therefore there's a lot that we can learn from the institution now that the institution is greater in terms of many aspects. So let it be an opportunity for us to learn a lot, to learn more about pedagogical aspects. So Professor Dr. Miima, I welcome you on board. We are ready, we are set for you, and we are looking forward to be more enlightened in as far as delivering content to our students online is concerned. Thank you and welcome. Welcome, Dr. Miima.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. I want to thank a professor, I may not remember the name so well, Professor Joshua Bakaka, I think I'm pronouncing the name well. Then Professor Ogao, I think we have interacted with you, plus the faculty members of KCA. I'm very excited to be with you. And as neighbors, I want to believe we are sisters and brothers, isn't it? And whatever I'm going to share with you, it's just something on techniques on instructional, the techniques that you can use in instruction in the classroom, especially during this time when the students are away, we are having so many challenges, and we feel we want to get to our students, we don't know how to get to them. So I'll give you a few, I'll share, actually I'm not training you, we are all educationists, we are just sharing how to improve on our pedagogy. So you'll find that some of the things that I'm going to talk about are the things that you know, but it will have to help us maybe to perform better. As you've been told, I'm a lecturer in KU. I actually teach instructional methods and a bit of technology. For those ones who have been in ComTech, I think you know the kind of arrangement that we have. We teach from instructional methods, communication skills, education technology, and we move to subject methods. So those are some of the areas that we handle. And now that I'm from ComTech department, I think my audience know that I'm a teacher. And you may find that sometimes I may follow the steps the teacher uses. So I want to believe we are going to enjoy the teaching. Now the topic is online instructional techniques. And what we are going to cover today, or what we are expecting today, I will start by defining the term online instructional methods. I'll look at some of the models, I'll mention some of the models on online instruction. Then I'll go ahead and discuss a few instructional methods. There are quite many, but I'll discuss a few that any instructor who is dealing with the online students can integrate in the teaching activities for him or her to be successful or to be effective. I was also asked to mention something on flipped classroom instruction, and we all believe that that is the way to go. When if you are teaching in primary school, you are teaching in secondary schools, you are teaching in an institution, the university, we are all moving to flipped classroom instruction. And I'll do that and show you a sample of a lesson on how you can handle the class, whether with the students or whether the students are away from you. And finally, I look at the qualities of a good online instructor. And if you look at the last bullet there, I've talked about developing a lesson. As a teacher, as an instructor, and as a lecturer, I'll expect my audience, after listening to what I'm going to present, they should be able to develop an online lesson and share with us. So you should be expecting that at the end of the lesson, when I finish my presentation, you will be able to do a task. Now, I'll start by defining the term online instruction. If you look at that slide, I'm saying it's a process. Any instruction is a process. And in this process is where the teaching is taking place, the teaching and learning is taking place, and the instructor and the learners are in different environment. I'm mentioning the physical environment. They are not in the same environment. They're in different places, and they are linked together by technology. So it is technology that is bringing or linking them together. Could be a computer, could be a WhatsApp. That is what is linking them. So we are talking about the computer-enabled techniques. So the student is away, the lecturer is on another space, and they are interacting using a link. Now, online instruction enables the instructor to deliver the content, interact with the learners, and even assess the learning in virtual learning environment. So you actually deliver the content, you deliver the material that you want to teach, you interact with the learners using the technology, that link that I've talked about, and you can assess the learners still using the technology on the internet. Now, online teaching demands that learners learn most content independently without physical contact with the instructor. We may have the blended kind of teaching where you find that once in a while, the instructor has to have the face-to-face interaction with the learner. And you may have another scenario where the instructor and the learner, they never meet. They only meet using with the communication technology link. So you may not be able to know your learners, but the learning must take place. And we are going to look at several ways in which you can do that in order to interact with the students, you assess the students, and you can share any material with the students, whether they are in class or whether they are away. And I want to believe during this particular period of COVID-19, many universities are facing this kind of a problem, and therefore they have to look for ways in which they can communicate with their learners, and the learning must continue. Whether we have the face-to-face or no face-to-face, the learning must continue. Now, when we talk about online instruction, we have various models of inline instruction, and they are as shown on that slide. You can see if you look at that slide I'm sharing with you, we have the rotational model. And the rotational model is one of the blended models that any instructor can use in the classroom, where you find that the students participate in online learning in the classroom and also at home. So it is rotational. If you look at that diagram that I put up there, the diagram number 1, kind of a rotational. So we have the teacher giving the instructions and the content get to the learner. The learner can work and share the information with the teacher. So that is the model that we call rotational model. So it includes both face-to-face and the virtual kind of interaction. The second one is the one that I'm calling the arcade model. You can pronounce it the way you want. If you look at the diagram there, you can see diagram number 2. That is the model that we are talking about. And this one, all the lessons are actually done the lessons are done in the institution. Then the learners do most of the work. You'll find that at the end of the day, when I talk about these things, you find that all of these things work together. So this one, the Alcate model, I say I'll pronounce it like that. All the courses are offered online, not at home, online. So the learner works at home. The instructor can give the information wherever it is, but the learner totally gets the information at home. So it is totally done online. And I want to believe most of the universities are actually getting to that model because face-to-face interaction is becoming a bit difficult. Then we have the enriched virtual model. This is actually the blended one. And I think when you talk about the flipped classroom instruction, that's where it falls, whereby we are having most of the work being done virtually. Then we have a few classes, like what we do in KU, actually we do the enriched virtual model, the blended one, where you find that our this one, I wanted to call this one, digital students, they come to the campus to learn maybe for 4 days, but the whole of the semester, they are away. They only appear during the cards and the examination. So you find that most of the information is on the platform. We have the module where we put on the platform. The students read the module. Could be you ask them questions, you give them quizzes, you give them exams, you give them assignment. You have chats with them, but they only come just for a few days for the face-to-face, and most of the learning is online. And that is the mode that many people are using also in the universities and even in other institutions. Then we have the fully online model. The fully online model. If you look at number 4, you can see the lecturer is at the distance quite far, and the learners are the other end. So we have the distance is there. Sometimes we call it the distance learning, where you don't meet with the students. All the work is done online. All the exams are done online. All the cards are done online. So yours is just to put your content there. You give the instructions. The students do follow the instructions. They learn the content, and they said, they start interaction online. There's no face-to-face completely. So you find that this model is practiced by many, especially many countries, the many Western countries, they tend to use this method. So you never meet the students, you never know your students. You are always communicating with them online. So all the work or coursework is remotely done. The students never meet the lecturer. They only know the name maybe, and maybe they know the kind of thing the lecturer is doing, but they never find time to meet the lecturer. The lecturer never find time to meet the students. So those are some of the examples of the models that you can adapt as a lecturer to teach. I said I'm just going through them briefly. I'll give more information on the models later on. Now from the models, we have the instructional methods that one can use in teaching. And when I talk about instructional methods, we usually put them into 2 categories, where we have expository and we have the heuristic. I don't like even mentioning heuristic kind of methods, because I always discourage my colleagues, I discourage the students from using it, because it is it is teacher-centered. It is a traditional way of giving the lectures. I want to believe maybe some of us went through a system whereby the lecturer knew everything. The learner was just to receive and reproduce at the end of the semester. And if you check maybe what is happening in the old system, you may find that that is what the methods that they used to use. The teacher knows everything. He has the content. In that content, the learner just listens to the content. Maybe the only thing the learner does is to take some notes, maybe to just listen. It is passive. You find that the method is so direct. The lecturer or the teacher is authoritative, is the one who is actually an expert. So the learner just sits there and listens and does nothing. And then at the end of the term, you may find that the same is produced. I want to believe as educators, as instructors, in our education, there are people who are still doing that. Where a lecturer believes, when I go to class, it is me with the content. It is me with the information. And therefore, my learners or my students must sit, listen, take notes, and that is it. Then at the end of the semester, I bring the exam. The students will reproduce what I could have poured into their heads. Then I mark and give a grade. So those kind of expository methods, the ones I call the teacher-centered, I think at this level in the 21st century, we should always discourage it, because we have actually moved from that kind of a level. I sometimes share with my students and tell them, when I was in the university, we had a lecturer who could just come to class and talk for 2 hours, and he walks away. And that is it. We could not ask a question, we could not say anything, we just sit still. He talks, you write notes, and that is it. I want to believe as instructors, we should just move out of that expository kind of methods and now move to heuristic. Heuristic is now where we are finding the learners taking 90% of the lesson. They are participating in the learning activities. They are the ones doing all the activities. The lecturer or the instructor just gives facilities, gives the instructions, then the learners do most of the activities, they're engaged in most of the activities. For example, if it's a lecture, the lecture, we put it under expository method, but we have the improved lecture, whereby the instructor gives the instructions after giving the topic, then instruct the learners to participate in some activities, then give the response. So in heuristic, we are talking about the teacher being somebody who facilitates, somebody who moderates the learning activity. So it's only facilitating, and the learners are doing most of activities. For example, the learners are answering the questions, the learners are carrying out projects, the learners are doing experiments, they're doing demonstrations, they're solving the problem, and therefore we always say this is the most effective approach that the instructor or any teacher should do. So your work as a lecturer, you only do about 15%, or if it is more, then you can do 20%. But 85% should be learners' engagement, where they have to be engaged in doing those activities. So they should be found, they should be involving themselves in discussions, do projects, solve problems, do experiments as you check on what they're doing. So I think that is the way to go, where we are going to use heuristic method. And I've mentioned some of the methods there. If you look at that slide, we have the lecture method. And remember, I've said the lecture method can either be expository or heuristic, depending on how you as a lecturer, you are using it. You may have the formal lecture, where you still believe that I have to prepare my lesson. I go to class. If the lesson is taking, for example, 2 hours, I'll go and teach for 2 hours. And after teaching for 2 hours, I simply walk out of the lecture. Now we have the heuristic lecture, the one I call informal lecture, where it is a normal lecture, yes, but when I go to class, I engage my learners. I engage my learners in various activities. Could be I have the content. I'll ask the students to do some investigation about that content that I want to teach. They come and do the presentation. And after presentation, me as a teacher, I'll have to give feedback on how they have presented, and could be I could give some comments and summarize. It is still a lecture, but now the informal one. So when we talk about lecture method, we don't mean lecturing. We have 2 types, the informal and the formal. So the formal is the expository, teacher-centered, instructor-centered. The informal is the one I'm referring to, the heuristic, where the learners have to participate in the learning activities. Then we have the discussion method. I'll not go into details, these are things that we know. Here you engage the learners into discussion, where they have to discuss many issues surrounding the content that you are teaching. For example, if you are teaching a topic on emotion, maybe you are teaching psychology, you will have to engage the learners in the discussion. And the discussion I emphasize here is group discussion, where you give work, you put the students into small groups, you tell them to go around the topic, of course, with their guidance, and they discuss, they do the presentation, and you as an instructor, you simply give your remarks, you simply give the comment, you simply emphasize what you feel is important to the learners, and even correct. During the presentation, we find that the students may be discussing wrong things, so you focus the discussion on the content that we want to teach. Then we have demonstration, where the students sometimes do demonstrations. And when I talk about demonstration, I'm not talking about the teacher demonstration. I'm talking about the students' demonstration. That is heuristic approach, where they have to do the demonstrations. Remember, I've said in the 21st century, a lecturer is not supposed to take more than 80% of the teaching learning activities. You only take a small percentage, but the learners do most of the teaching. So that demonstration I'm talking about there is the the learners demonstration. They can do experiments, they can do work together and present it in a demonstrative way, and mostly that is done with science subjects. Then we also have simulations for the science lecturers. I think you know what that means. We have the games. You can use case studies, problem solving, etc. All the methods that I've mentioned there. And remember, in teaching, you can engage more learning method. I mean, more teaching methods in even in teaching one topic. So as I mentioned them there, these are just examples of the methods. But what is important here is I'm saying that we have two methods, expository and heuristic. And remember, I've said I'm discouraging the expository because it leads to rote learning, where the learners do not actually benefit more from the teaching. But heuristic, the students are hands-on. They do most of the activities, and at the end of the day, they understand what they are doing. They can actually remember what has been taught. Now from that, I singled out a flipped classroom instruction because that is where actually the people I talked to were emphasizing, and I want to believe this is the way to go. We have no excuse. We have to go, we have to use the flipped classroom instruction. And if you look at that slide, I have defined what it is. Actually, it is a blended learning that focuses mostly on learner engagement. So it is the learner who is involved more in the learning activities. The teacher is the moderator, the instructor is the facilitator. So the students do most of the work, they are engaged. Now this method gives the instructor a better opportunity to cater for individual differences. I think we know very well that all of us, we are different. We have different intellectual abilities or mixed levels, where you find that we have the academically gifted learners, those ones who can get information very fast. And sometimes we will say, before even you say it, they know. They are there. We have the average students, of course, those are the normal students that we'll find in every institution. And we have the slow learners, those ones who take some time to understand or grasp the concept. So we are saying that when you are using the flipped classroom instruction, you are able to cater for individual differences. You are able to cater for all the students. You are able to find out their difficulties in understanding. In a classroom, you find that there are people who will understand very fast, and that those people will not understand. They'll take time to understand what you are teaching. So in a flipped classroom instruction, you'll find that you as a lecturer or an instructor, you are able to cater for all your students. So nobody will remain behind. And that is why you'll find that the learners, when you are using flipped classroom instruction, the stronger learners may be able to assist the weaker learners. So they are moving together. Each one of them is sharing, each one of them is helping each other, and you find that the learning is moving smoothly. So in this kind of instruction, you'll find that there is equal learning opportunities because the students discuss, they share the information, and even they enjoy the kind of teaching that is taking place. Remember, I've said the lecturer or the instructor is the facilitator. So you only facilitate, but the learners, you tell the learners, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go on this link. There is this video, watch this video and do 1, 2, 3, 4. So the students will do that. After that, they'll come and present the information. They'll share individually, they'll share in a group. Then you will have to give your comments, you will give the feedback, and the learning continues. So when you talk about flipped classroom, don't do a lot. As a lecturer, just do 15%, just do 20%, and let the students be engaged in the learning, and you'll find the learning is very, very interesting. Now, in flipped classroom instruction, the lessons and content are more accessible. When I talk about more accessible, I'm having in mind this lecturer or this instructor who is preparing for a lesson. Now, this instructor could be chooses to use a video. The lecturer may decide, I'll do my own video, I'll film my own video and use it for teaching. Or you may go to the internet, the YouTube, there are so many videos there on different kind of topics that you can use in your classroom. So you simply go to the link, you get the video from there, you upload on the, for example, if you're having the university a platform, online platform, you upload there and you instruct the students to go there and watch that video. Remember, you have to provide the link so that when they click on the link, they're able to get the video, isn't it? So once they get the video, you tell them, listen to that video. You are giving instructions, listen to that video. After listening to it, do the following. So you're spelling out what the students should do. So the student will go on the link, will get the information, will watch the video, will respond to what you expect them to do. Then now after doing that, they'll have to share on that from there, share with the other students. Then you as an instructor, remember I've said that you'll only encourage them. You'll read the comments. If you find the comments are wrong, you can even ask other students to comment on what the students have presented. And after that, you can discuss as a class, as you guide, and later on, you add the lesson. So when I say the content is accessible, remember it's online. So anytime the student wants to understand that content, we'll still go back to that link because the link is there. Even after, long after you've taught that lesson, you'll find that the student will go back again to that information and continue learning. If it's a slow learner, we'll still continue and to watch that video. If it is the chapter on internet, you have discussed that, the student will still go there and see it. So there's no way the student will feel is left out. Will always go back and read the content and enrich the content. So that is what we are saying in a flipped classroom. That is what goes on. The students are in charge. They are completely in charge of the learning process. You as a lecturer, you are a moderator, you are a facilitator. Now we have 4 pillars of the flipped classroom, and you can see them there. I've written them there. So the first one there is the one we call flexible learning environment. Now in a flipped classroom, you find that the instructor provides fluid timelines for the learners. You actually provide the time. And when you provide the time, remember these learners are learning away from the classroom. So you provide the time. For example, you say, this activity will take, for example, 2 hours or 3 hours. You are telling the students as you prepare for your lesson. So that they will go there, they look at the lesson. And if you find that could be the time you've given is not enough for the student, because we're talking about students who are different, who have different characteristics. You may find that maybe the content you put out, you are telling them to do in 2 hours, but we have the slow learner who is likely to take more time, isn't it? So if you find that some learners have not responded to the activity that you've given, then definitely you as a learner, you will have to be, you as an instructor, you have to be flexible. You will have to adjust the time so that all the learners are moving together. So in a flipped classroom, we are saying that you don't become rigid on time. You have to have that flexible environment. There are those ones who will work very fast, there are those ones who will not work. And once you notice that, for example, you gave an activity, some learners have done and some have not done, then it means there's a problem. And you as a lecturer or an instructor, you may decide to extend that particular time. Then we have the learning culture as another pillar. And we always say flipped classroom instruction always provide a rich environment that allows the students to work, do self-reflection, and actually do the activities themselves. They are hands-on. So when we talk about flipped classroom, remember that rich environment where the students have to do self-reflection. They're always engaged on whatever they're doing, what I'm calling they're engaged on hands-on activities. So that they're ones who are doing the activities and not the instructor. Then we have the intentional content as another pillar where the teacher decide ahead of time what to engage the learners on. Intentional content, it is through the instructor. You are early enough so that the learners are able to know what they're engaging in. So you decide the content. And for example, if you have if you have the platform, the campus platform, you may decide to put the content there early enough so that the learners know that, the learners can see it, so that they know this is the content that we are going to cover. So you do it intentionally. They are aware on what activities they are going to engage in. And then finally, the final pillar there is the instructor. I've been talking about the instructor, and I want to believe at this level, you know now, the instructor in a flipped classroom is to facilitate, is the moderator. You give the content and give the instructions. And later on, you may monitor what the learners are doing, and you give the feedback. You don't teach, you don't lecture. You are only giving the content, you give the direction, and you monitor what the learners are doing. So those 4 things will guide you in a flipped classroom. Remember, I've said the environment must be flexible, and you are the instructor who is controlling that particular, the flexibility. If you find the learners are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you adjust the time. Sometimes I look at the kind of things we do in our institution where we pretend we are using a flipped classroom. I hope nobody will mention that anywhere. You go and put a forum on the platform and you disappear. Maybe you are doing it in January and you disappear. You don't even bother going to find out if the students did what you told them, and it just goes like that. At the end of the semester, you give an exam. You give an exam. Sometimes you give an assignment. If you look at that assignment, maybe it is just put there with no instructions, with nothing. The students do the assignment. You don't even bother to look at it or give the feedback. That means you are not doing your part. You must be a moderator. I give work. I give the students time to do the work. I look at the work. I give the feedback. So we have to participate in that. If you want to be a good teacher, we shall be looking at the good qualities of a good teacher, and this will come again. You have always to do that in a flipped classroom. You must move with your learner. You must be with your learners and find out why they're not doing this, why are they not responding, they could be having challenges. Like when we talk about the internet, they could be having internet challenges. It is you, the instructor, is supposed to find out why that is happening. So the 4 pillars are very important, and they can help you in your teaching. Now on the next slide there, I want to go through some of the ways you could use in a flipped classroom approach. Then after that, I'll use some templates to show you how you can teach online using this approach. Now, the first thing that I'm talking about there is deciding on the content. As an instructor, you know the entry behavior of your learners. You know the characteristics of your learners. When you are using the content, when you are deciding on the content, you are deciding on the content that is relevant, that is appropriate to the intellectual ability of your learners. So you have to do it in a way that students will not find the content challenging. And the best way you can do is just to start with the simple things, the simple topics, as you move to the complex one. In fact, the simple topics always excite the learners. They encourage the learners. They make the learners to get interested in the learning activities. So you have to choose the content, and the content here is the topic. In the competence-based curriculum, they call it strand, sub-strand. You have to choose the appropriate content and the material for your learners. Now, after choosing the content, you are the specialist, you know the kind of content that you teach. You have to formulate the learning outcome. Why do I want to teach this content? Why do I want to teach this topic? So you have to come up with a learning outcome. And when I talk about learning outcome, I'm talking about what these learners are supposed to do, not what they're supposed to achieve. Because it is not just the achievement. We want them to do something. For example, I want them to demonstrate. I want them to post. I want them to do something that will enhance their understanding of this activity. So you have to write to them, and they must be smart. We always say in competent department, they must be smart. SMART means, I think you know what SMART means, isn't it? Simple. I'll not allow anybody to answer. It must be simple, measurable, realistic, and time-bound. So when we talk about learning outcome, remember, they must be very smart. They must be achievable. They must be measurable. They must be simple, in clear language, where that anybody who is looking at it is seeing what you are doing. And sometimes we say, when we are doing online instruction, you don't say by the end of the lesson, the learner should be able. We don't say that. That is on face-to-face, isn't it? But when it comes to online interaction, I'm talking about flipped classroom, we say, you should be able to do, because they're going to do something. They're going to demonstrate, they're going to post. So we are saying they should be able to do and not should be able to. So it is continuous. It's not at the end of the lesson. Face-to-face, we say at the end of the lesson, but online we say you should be able to do. So it is a process, continuous. You're doing it continuously. Now, after coming up with appropriate learning outcome, you decide on which technology that you want to use. So you can think about the technology you want to use. Which technology do I want to use? So you choose the most easiest technology that you feel you are comfortable with, it is easily accessible, and it is straightforward. Don't go for this complicated kind of technology where maybe you want to show how you know, like the ICT people, I know they know a lot of technology. You as an instructor, go for the simplest. For example, I may decide, I just want to use YouTube video. So you go for the simplest. You are deciding which one do I want to use. So I'm saying that technology you're choosing should be simple, should be easy to use, should be straightforward. Then after choosing the technology to use, you simply decide on which resource now you want to use. Is it a video? Is it a PowerPoint? Is it a internet materials, the chapter in a book? So you are deciding the kind of a resource that you want to use, because this is the resource that the kind of resource that I'm talking about is, if I choose a video, is it available? Or am I going to create one from this particular lesson? Or if it is, I want the students maybe to read some material on the internet, do I have a link for that material? So you are deciding on what you want to use. Now, once you decide, you now get the resource. For example, I want to use a video. I'm asking myself, asked myself when I was deciding on which resource, was I to create the video, or was I to go to the internet, get a video that is relevant for my topic, and integrate in my teaching? And sometimes you find that it is easier when you get your own you get your own video, you film your own video, and you put it on the portal where the students can, you upload it on the portal where the students can access it. If it is the YouTube, then you simply go to the YouTube, get the right YouTube, and here we are talking about the link. You simply get the link and you give it to the learners. You upload it, for example, on the portal. You let the learners see it, and they can be able to use it. Now, once you avail the resource, that is the video, the link, etc. Now, this is where now you have to engage the learners. You don't just allow the students to watch the video and that is it. Remember, it's engagement. We are in a flipped classroom. So I'm telling the students, watch this video. You provided the link. And after watching the link, the video, do the following. You spell them out. That video is about your content. It is not you to tell the student that now this video is about this. This is the content in this video. You don't tell them like that. You simply, already they know the topic. So you simply tell them, watch this video and you spell out what you want them to do. Now you are giving them activities. You are assigning them activities of which they have to do it by watching the video or going to the link that you've directed them. So the activities must be many, not one. You spell out many things so that they are engaged throughout. You want them to engage in the following activities. Then now you spell them out. Now, after the students have watched the video, they have done the activities. And for example, it depends how you are doing it. For example, if you are using the charts, you're using the forums, you'll find that some of them will be posting what they have done, because you'll tell them, after doing this, post your presentation, post the responses on this forum. So the students will post it. And after posting it, now you create the dialogue, now where they have to discuss. And you know, remember in flipped classroom, if you don't give your instructions clearly, the students will not do the right thing. So when you tell them, watch this video and identify 1, 2, 3, describe 1, 2, 3, draw 1, 2, 3, you expect them to do and post, because it is an online interaction. So after posting, now the whole class has to discuss, because we have to look at what the students have posted. We have to look at their presentations. So we discuss. We start with the individual presentation, then now we move to the discussions. We're asking the students, can you say something about what so and so has presented? Then after that, remember, as an instructor, you give the feedback, you give the comments, and you conclude the lesson. So these are some of the procedures that you can use in a flipped classroom. I've said you identify the content, you write the learning outcome, you choose the technology to use. After choosing the technology, you have to decide on the resource to use. Remember, I've said creating, you can either create your own video or a resource, or you can go to the internet. It has so much information, a lot of information. You get there, you get the link, and you give it to the learners, you avail it to the learners, and then now you engage the learners. So the learners have to be engaged in various activities. So you don't give one activity. In flipped a classroom approach, you give very many activities, up to 3 activities, where the learners have to do the activities, then they do the presentations, they discuss, and your work is to emphasize, to give feedback, and also give some of the information that could have been left out. And I think if you can use this procedure, your lesson can be very, very interesting. Now, in the next slide, I've put there a template that is showing how you can go about in a flipped learning class. And if you look at it, I have 2 sections there, where we have the section where I have written numbering, spacing, I think it was spacing and sequencing. And then now we have another column where we are showing, sorry for the font, where we are showing the number as the sequences, the tasks take place. So the first thing, remember I said you identify the topic. You can see at the top there, here, we have the, the topic. We have the title there, where we have the topic. When I use these 2, strand and sub-strand, that is for competence-based curriculum, but it means the same thing. It's the content that you are going to teach in class. So when you are doing your online instruction, remember you have to come up with appropriate content. And I've mentioned it earlier, the appropriate content depending on the entry behavior, the characteristics of your learner. So you choose your topic appropriately. Now you ask yourself, why do I want to teach this topic? So that is now the purpose. So we have the purpose there. This is what you want to expose your learners. Oh, sorry, not that one. This is what you want your learners to learn, the purpose. Why this material? Why this content? Is it important? And remember, I've said when you talk about purpose, actually, it is that topic that is being aligned to the learning outcome. Sometimes back, we used to call them objectives. The reason why I'm going to teach this topic, I want my learners to achieve this. But now we are saying, I want to teach this topic because I want the learners to do the following. So that is the purpose. And remember, they have to be aligned. Then now there is that brief summary. The brief is summary of what you want to teach. For example, you have your content, you want to take that content, what you simply say, you tell the learners what they're supposed to do. For example, you can tell them, watch this video. I'm using the video because I've used it up there. Watch this video on this link, in case you put it on a particular link, and do 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, you have the learning outcome. So you are telling them what they're supposed to do. You simply give a summary. I still insist you are a facilitator, you are a moderator. So you only give the summary of what you want your learners to do. So you tell the students, go to this link, watch the video, and do the following. It depends on where you could have, or the resource you could have decided to use. Now, after giving a brief summary of the overall task, what the learners are supposed to do, I've written there spark. You give a spark. And if you look at what I've said here, that is something that can help the students start thinking. You want them to, that whatever you're putting there should provoke their thinking. You can provide a picture, you can provide a short video, but concerning the content that you are teaching. So you want to provoke them, you want them to get excited, to be motivated to continue learning. And once you do that, you'll find that the students will get excited when you put a spark there. And now from that spark, remember it is related to the content you are teaching. You could ask them a few questions about that spark. You could ask them what they are seeing, what is happening. You just ask them a few questions. But remember, the spark I'm talking about must be related to the content that you are teaching. And you just want the students to think. You want the students to be excited about what you are teaching. Now, from the spark, we have the individual contributions. So we assume the content is there. You told the student, watch the video, do the following. You motivated them by providing the spark. And now we come now to the individual contributions. Remember, we are doing online interaction. The students are in different spaces. So you are dealing with them in different places, and therefore we must have the individual contribution. So you give them instructions. You may have done it when we were talking about what they're supposed to do. You give the instructions. So you tell them to respond to the instructions, I mean the activity you gave them. You can tell them, it could be to specify a particular activity in the link. So they just write. If you are using a chat, they write what they are seeing, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. You may even tell them, create some similar link from whatever you put there. You are engaging them in various activities. Then after doing that, you now come to dialogue. Dialogue here is actually the discussion, where now all the participants are involved. For example, if you're having a class of 50 students, they must participate because this is online interaction. So they have to respond to the discussion that is going on. For example, if it's a WhatsApp forum, if you're using a WhatsApp forum, the students must respond. If you are using that kind of a technology, they must respond. And sometimes we say, when it comes to dialogue, you have to let the student know the etiquette of communication. The online etiquette, we call the network. I mean, netiquette. They must know how to respond to the questions. They must know how to interact. They must know how to give comments. So they have to do it in a proper language. Sometimes we say, when you see people communicating in capital letters, then it means they're shouting. So you have to discourage the students from using capital letters. I don't know what is your feeling. You may find that sometimes when people are using the technology, they put very many exclamation marks or question marks. It means you are shouting. So we are saying that you have to tell the students on how to communicate when they are participating in online interaction. So they have to be loyal, they have to use correct English, they must respect the comments from their peers, and it is you, the lecturer, who is supposed to be doing that. So avoid shouting, you encourage them to avoid shouting, using the kind of symbols that show rudeness and all that. So dialogue is now the actual discussion where the students discuss the topic, they do their presentation, they ask the questions as you, as a moderator, clarify your role. You are focusing. You will find that when you have put a discussion there, an activity, the students start discussing their own things. They even forget they're in the classroom. So you as a moderator or a facilitator, you have to focus the discussion. When the discussion is going on, you have to give your feedback. You don't just leave the students to chat and you leave it like that. You are the instructor. So you have to keep on monitoring what they're doing. You have to keep on giving feedback. You have to keep on refocusing on the discussion. You may find that there are some students who may never talk. Could be they're in the chat room. Maybe you're using the chats. They're in the chat room, but they're not saying anything. You can see they are present there, but they're not saying anything. It is you, the instructor, is supposed to prompt them to talk because this is a learner-centered activity. And then we are saying that as an instructor, you have to summarize the key points. That is your work. You have to summarize the key points, and finally, you close the activity. So that is very important when you're dealing with the online discussion. It can be a forum, it may be a chat, it may be maybe having a Zoom meeting where you find that the students have to meet, they have to discuss and all that. I want to believe you can do that. Now, the next one is the schedule and time. If you look at that, it is there. Where you find that this discussion should be done. You are actually spelling out the duration. When you want that discussion to take place, for example, if it's a forum, maybe a forum you want to put there for 2 days. It is up to you to do it. Maybe you want to do it, or you want them to do for a week. So you have to be particular on the time that must be taken for that content, the time that must be taken for that particular activity. How long do you expect them to do it? And as a good instructor, I want to believe if I say this activity should be over by 29th of June or July at 10 a.m., then at 10 a.m., I want to believe I have to be there and make sure that everyone has participated. So you have to give that a schedule and time. And finally, definitely you have to discuss about the next activity that you have to engage in. So remember, I've said on online interaction, especially when you're using a flipped classroom, I've said you must have the content. It is there, the title, sorry. You must have the content. You must have the purpose, of which I'm saying it's the learning outcome. Then you must give the brief summary of the overall task, what the learners are supposed to do. You have to spell out what you want them to do. Then it could be you could have a spark where you are actually provoking the students to get interested in whatever you want to teach. And remember, I've said the content that you are teaching must be related to whatever you are teaching. Then we must have the individual contributions, because the students are in different spaces, they have to give individual contributions. And after that, we are saying that we must have dialogue. This is where the actual interaction is taking place, where you're involving the learners to do their presentations, they give their feedback, and you are the moderator here who is playing the role that I've already mentioned. Then we have the schedule and time. You don't put, for example, an assignment in January, and you don't look at it up to May when the semester is ending, and you even mark now after the students have already finished the semester. You don't do that. You must have the timelines, and you should always communicate the next activity. So this is just a template that can help you to teach in a flipped classroom. So this is just an example of a lesson. I'm using lesson 9. The title is Emotions. Now the purpose there you can see to expose you to the various functions of emotions. This is just an example. Then now there is the brief summary of the overall task there, where I'm saying watch the slides on emotions. I've said there the name. Then discuss. You are spelling out what the learners have to engage in. Discuss the roles that emotions play in learning. So that is the summary. You are giving the summary of what you want the learners to do. Then I put there some spark on emotions and learning cycle. So the learners look at that spark, and once they look at it, remember I've said you have to give the spark actually makes them think wider. It makes them get excited, and they get motivated and interested to be in the lesson and to be part of the lesson. Then now we have the individual contribution there. Where we are saying that the individual contribution, the students watch or they read the slides on that, they reflect on it, and we are saying there's a discussion forum there. So they have to do it themselves, they give individual contribution, and after that, we have now the dialogue where now they have to discuss, where we are saying that they have to post their responses about the discussion, they have to read what their peers have posted, they have to comment on what they have, their peers are saying about the same content that are learning. And remember, I've said that you always remind them to keep the netiquette when responding to the comments for the learners. When they are posting their responses, they have to use a proper language. Then now, as they do that, you are here, the moderator, where you find that if the students are not focusing in the discussion, you have to redirect them. You have to encourage those ones who don't contribute to contribute. You have to cater for all of them. They have to participate in the learning activities. You have to give the feedback. You point out key points, summarize, and you close the discussion. Then now you are giving the next discussion there. If you're using the discussion forum, you have to put there and you tell them the topic that they are going to handle. This is just a simple way, the way you can handle the online interaction. So when you talk about flipped classroom, those are some of the procedures that you may follow. I was also asked to talk about the qualities of a good teacher, And here I'm saying that the qualities of a teacher are the same, whether it is online, whether it is face-to-face, the qualities are the same. And I want to spend some time talking about the instructor, because you are the teacher, you are the one handling the students, you are the one in the classroom. Remember, teaching cannot end without a teacher. We want to believe that. There must be somebody to facilitate. There must be somebody to give instructions. And we are saying that a good instructor must have a good introduction of the lesson. You know, I'm not seeing you people. You may not see me. We are online. So I must go give a good introduction that will capture the attention of my learners. So I'll start by welcoming the learners in the classroom. This is online interaction. I welcome you to this classroom, blah, 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 blah. Our topic today is this. Then you outline, you try to outline the lesson outcome. This is the purpose. This is what I want you to do at the end of the lesson. And this is how we are going to cover it. For example, if you are going to use a video, you are going to use the internet, the power presentation, or any other method that you are going to use, any technique that you are going to use, you have to spell it out in the introduction. And remember, you must give clear instructions. Because if you don't give clear instructions, find that some students may not be able to understand what you are teaching. So you have to give the clear instructions. Then the second thing after that, we are saying that you select a good online instructor or a good lecturer or a good teacher must select the material to teach appropriately. I've already mentioned earlier that selecting the material is very, very important. And we all know that all of us, we are not the same. There are the people who can learn very fast, there are people who can learn slowly. We have the students with the challenges. So when you select the material, you are looking at the entry behavior. When I talk about the entry behavior, I think it carries so much about your learners. What is their background? What can they understand better? And how can they understand better? So you select the material that can engage all the learners, that can help the learners to learn and achieve what they want to achieve properly. Now, after that, another quality is the writing of the lesson outcome. You find that as teachers, sometimes you just wake up one morning, and once you wake up, you pick a textbook and you rush to school, or you rush to class to teach. Sometimes I say that is not an instructor. Or you pick a textbook, you go to class to teach without spelling out what you actually want to teach. A good instructor, after selecting the content, the material that I'm talking about, After selecting the strand or the substrand, you have to write the lesson outcome, the purpose. Why am I going to teach this material? So you must write, and remember I said you have to write it properly. Remember what I said, SMART. You must write the SMART objectives that are simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. That is the reason why you're teaching that content. So as a lecturer, as a teacher, there's no way you can just walk to class with the topic and you don't have the lesson outcome. It looks a bit awkward. So we are saying that if you're a good instructor, always prepare your lesson, whether you are teaching law, whether you are teaching IT, whether you are teaching what, at the end of the day, you are an instructor, and therefore you must come up with the lesson outcome. Now, a good instructor should always engage learners in a variety of learning activities. I've already talked about them, about there. You have to engage the learners in a variety of activities. You don't give the learners one activity. We want to see the learners engaging in various activities. They must be discussing, they must present, they must illustrate, they must demonstrate. You have to use a variety of learning activities. Remember I've said we have moved away from the lecture method. Here, the learner must do a lot of activity, must be engaged throughout the lesson. And I always say my work is so little. I have just to give the instructions. So the learners must do many activities. You engage them as much as possible. And you have to choose those activities. You select them appropriately. Remember, you have the content. That is the content that you are teaching. And the content will enable you to come up with appropriate learning activities. So as you do that, remember the topic. They must be related. They must be aligned to the content that you are teaching. Another quality of a good teacher is to use a variety of techniques in the lesson delivery. I think I have mentioned that, where I'm saying that you have to engage various methods. I mentioned some up there. If you remember, I mentioned discussion. Remember, I talked about the informal lecture. You could use demonstrations, etc. Those are some of the things that you should be putting in mind. You can use the links I've said, the technology. So you are engaging, using a variety of techniques in the lesson delivery. Once you do that, you are a good instructor. Then I'm also saying that a good instructor must focus on the lesson and present it in a systematic way, focusing on the lesson. I want to teach a topic on emotion. That is my topic. I focus, everything that I'm doing in that class must be focused on emotion. And I'm saying you have to present it in a systematic. I've shown you how, the template I showed you, how you can go about your teaching your lesson. And therefore we are saying that if you have to present your topic in a systematic way, you must have the introduction. You must have, and the introduction, remember I've said it must be exciting. It must be very exciting. It must be able to capture the learner's attention. It must bring the learners closer to the lecture. So you make it more innovative and more creative. After the introduction, you have the next level. We are saying that you have now to develop the lesson. How do you develop the lesson? And we say that when you are developing the lesson, you do it in a sequential manner. This is what I'll do in step 1. This is what I'll do in step 2. This is what I'll do in step 3. And this is what I'm going to do in step 4. Then now you go to the last phase there where now we are doing the conclusion. How are you doing the conclusion? So we are saying that a good instructor must focus on the lesson and present it in a systematic way. Another quality there is a use of instructional resources. Use of instructional resources. How do you use a variety of instructional resources? You can use multimedia, for example. You can use videos. You can use the online educational resources to reach the content, where you Google the material from the Google You go to the Google, you get the material there. You can get a lot of material on the internet to engage in your learning. You don't just use a textbook, you copy class with a textbook and you produce the same information in the textbook, and the same information can be found with the learners. You have to use a variety of resources in your teaching. A good online instructor, remember I've said in a flipped classroom, you have to cater for individual differences. Remember I said we are all different and we can never be the same. And therefore, as you go to that class, you are going to that class thinking that I'm going to handle students who are bright. I'm going to handle the students who are slow learners. I'm going to handle the learners with the difficulties, with the challenges. And therefore, as a good instructor, you must put this in mind. Definitely, you have to know your learners and to know how to cater for them. And that's why I'm saying that the moment you know the individual differences of your learners and you give a task, you give a timeline, and you find that some of them have not done it, then it is up to you to extend the time. You adjust the time because the learners are different. Then I've also written there must be, the good instructor must manage the classroom interaction properly. Remember I've talked about the etiquette where you have to control the learners, whether it's online, it's face-to-face, you have to be able to manage your class. For example, if a student uses a rude language or improper language, it is you to correct that particular student so that the other students don't feel like they are not, you know, they don't feel happy being in that class. They don't feel happy to contribute. So you have to manage your class, you have to control your class. And I'm saying that a good instructor must always give prompt feedback. You have to give prompt feedback. When I give an assignment, I must mark and give the feedback. If it is a quiz, I must give the feedback. If it is, for example, I've given a cut online, I have to mark the cut and give feedback. And feedback does not mean that you're just giving a grade. For example, if I give a student 20, I have to explain to the student why I'm giving 20, because this is online interaction. You have to give the comments where the student went wrong and how the situation can be corrected. So there are so many qualities of a lecturer or an instructor online. And I've said those qualities do not actually apply to only an online instructor. It applies to any teacher who is teaching either face-to-face, online, or anywhere else. I think that is all that I wanted to say. And before I allow questions, there is an activity there. I don't know how long this presentation will take. There is an activity there, and I want to believe wherever you are, Professor, how long is this supposed to take?
We have actually exhausted the parts that we wanted you to.
I wanted to give an activity because I said I'm a lecturer.
Yes.
So that I could engage a few of you to develop a simple online lesson.
Okay.
And could be do some presentation for about 3 to 5 minutes, following what we have talked about, the flipped classroom interaction.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what the other panelists think. Can I suggest something? I'm suggesting, Dr. Miima, we can take this task in a more detailed manner because we actually starting teaching. We are starting this week.
Okay.
And if you can delegate that role to Dr. Gashigi, then we have a way of now, you know, it's a very good task. I support it so much. Then we can have maybe interaction. Dr. Gashigi and her team can help staff to develop this lesson plan. I think that's my view. I don't know what the other panelists think. Dr. Gashigi, what do you think?
I would suggest you give us a takeaway task. Sorry.
Okay, it's in order. It's in order. So that is the task I want us to do. Could be, you know, once you give, as a teacher, when you give, you teach a topic, you have to give an activity. And if you want to know whether the students have followed, then they have to do an assignment where you have to look and see whether they got what you are teaching or what you did not. And that's what I'm saying. When you are teaching online, you give an activity, you have to follow it.
Oh, perfect.
To see if it is done. And if you find that it's not done well, then it means there's a problem. Then you do the revisiting. You continue teaching and emphasizing the same thing.
Okay. I think we'll take up the task.
So
Dr.
Priscilla,
Miima.
if you can do it, that will be okay.
Yeah, that would be fine. We'll do it. People can do the task, do some submissions, and then we'll have a look at it.
Okay, that's okay.
What Professor Ogao is driving at, that we use the remaining time for questions and answers, because I am sure members would want to find out about some things that maybe they never got to understand clearly.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Miima, for that very rich presentation. When we are discussing about this webinar, I think this is what we expected. We've previously had a broad overview of quite many interesting things. So we wanted to build the pillars now to go a little bit deep in content. In this case, we are looking at online instruction methods. And I think my view is that you've really hammered it home. That was my expectation. So thank you very much, Dr. Miima, for that. I would want us to pick on a few questions. I can see the audience, they're posting questions. I'll start with the ones which are already there, as I encourage the audience to keep on posting their questions on the Q&A function of the facility down there. So the first question, Dr. Miima, you're ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Ernest Madara, and he is asking, don't you think the digital divide can be an impediment to the tools and techniques that you can employ, considering that some may be having a 2G, 3G, or 4G powered devices? Yeah.
So don't you think the digital divide can be an impediment to the tools and techniques you can employ, considering that some may be having the 2G and 3G? Yeah, it could be a problem, but we are saying that I want to believe in your institution you are provided the interaction platform. I don't know. I want to believe there is that interaction platform, isn't it?
Yes, there is.
So if it is, I don't think it can be an impediment, because I'm saying, like, for example, if you are using a video in your teaching, you don't need to take a whole video. You only take that particular bit that you want to engage the learners. Because if you say you are using a whole video you've downloaded on the online, you'll have a problem. But I want to believe that could not be an impediment because of the systems that put in place. I don't know the much that you have, but I want to believe this is not much problem. I believe there is a platform in your university that you are using that can enable any kind of a device from teaching.
Yeah. I think just related to that, from where you stand, you know, KU is one of the big, institution that has expertise in this area. Maybe looking at it from a country level, what are the kind of challenges? I'm just trying to add on to what Madara is asking. What are the challenges that we can expect in giving this kind of a delivery, especially the flipped classroom? What do you think are the big challenges we might encounter?
The challenges are there. Actually, the challenges are actually there. For example, I'm looking at this lecturer who is handicapped in using the technology. I believe most of your lecturers do not have the technology, isn't it? So you find that some of them may not have that skill, and therefore they may not be able to deliver content as expected. I'm also looking at things like the internet, the internet problems, whereby maybe you want to do the online interaction, and the students that you're handling are having the challenges on the internet about the internet. It may be a problem. And sometimes you may find that even in KU, when we are teaching our students online, there are these students who come from remote areas where they can't access the internet. You find that they may not be able to follow your lesson. And that's why I'm saying that as an instructor, you have to always extend the time, always be with your learners, always find out the challenges they're finding. You as a lecturer, when you find there's a challenge, you can discuss with the ICT people, see how to come about it. But the challenges of online teaching, there are quite many. What you can do, you do what is human, what you can manage. Because I know there are problems, and even us, we have many problems, but you just do what you can do in order to cater for your learners. I may not be an expert in ICT, but I think in that forum, we have people with ICT who can respond to that very well. I'm actually an instructor and I teach. The ICT people can be able to answer that question very well.
Another question, Dr. Miima, is in terms of when you looked at the flipped classroom approach, you find it's very engaging, very interactive, you know, listening to individual students, knowing their shortcomings and trying to compensate for that. Mm-hmm. In terms of class sizes, what would you say about this big, I mean, I have a class of say 200 students. Mm-hmm. What tip can you give in terms of handling such classes with this approach?
Okay, classroom sizes. I know that is a very big problem, classroom sizes. And sometimes, like as you say, you have a class of a big class. Sometimes even in KU, we have big classes. Like I teach instructional methods and my classes run between 200 to 300. And now if I have to use online, what I usually do is sometimes I put the students in groups. I don't know if it is possible on your side, you put the students in groups. For example, you can say that you are dividing your students in groups of 6 and you spell out, you try to share the information so that you say like today, I'll handle the first 6, you put them in a group. Then now another day you handle again another group. If it's possible, you can do that, you can do that. But I don't know, sometimes in KU what we do is we deal with the ones that are available online. If you're not online, sometimes we because we assume you can't access you, but I want to believe you can subdivide the students, you create as many groups as you can online. So if you're having your 200, try to make them smaller classes. You size them, you group them into tiny groups of 20 to 25, 30, so that you can be able to manage. And you can do it differently. For example, if you are teaching the content, you can have different times where you are saying the first start will do their activity between this time and this time. The second group is doing the same activity, but now you are giving different times. When it comes to class size, actually it's a problem that affects most of us, but I think as a tutor, as an instructor, you can be very innovative, you can be creative, and you see how you can handle the class. But the best is just to divide the students into smaller groups, smaller manageable groups, if you so wish. But the problem with that is, I am a lecturer, I have 3 hours to teach per week. So I don't care. I don't care whether I have all the students or I don't have, whether all students are online or they are not. We don't do that. If you are a good instructor, you should be able to subdivide that class into smaller groups and you handle them differently, although giving the same content. Sometimes what we do is, for example, if I'm teaching the same content, for example, group 1, to avoid the cheating thing, I may decide the group 1, I'll use video. The second group could be I'll use PowerPoint, but you're teaching the same content. Maybe the other group, I'll have to record my lecture. After recording the lecture, I'll upload it in the system. I tell the students, listen to this lecture and do 1, 2, 3, but it's the same content. So that you want to see the students, you're using a different varieties in your instruction, but teaching the same content. But sometimes if you say you are using the same, definitely if I use group 1, I'm using the video, that group will link the video to the second group, will link the video to the third group, and therefore you find that maybe the learning may not take place the way you expected. So you can divide them in groups and you use different techniques.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's possible on your side.
Yeah, no, it is indeed.
It is
It's
possible.
to, yeah.
Okay.
There's another question on from Solomon Maina, and it is, among the various tools, i.e. Zoom and many others, which tool would be most appropriate to use for classroom delivery?
Among the various tools?
Among the various tools, which tool would be the most appropriate to use for classroom delivery? Okay. Do you have a suggestion? Or, because we have Zoom, we have the Google Meet, we have the MS Teams, and quite a number. From your experience, do you have a preference for any of those?
Initially, we used to prefer the Skype, which is the same as the Zoom, isn't it?
Yes,
which is the same as Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
The Google is also one of the best you can use. So you can use Zoom, you can use Google. It is up to you to choose. So when it comes to teaching, remember I've said, I remember one lecturer told us when we were still learning in the undergraduate, he told us that there are different ways of dancing. The way I dance is not the way you dance, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it is you to decide which is this appropriate method, which is this appropriate technique that I want to engage the learners. And that's why we are saying, you look at all the resources that are around you. What is this that is accessible? What is this that I can use? And that's why I said, when I talked about a flipped classroom instruction, remember I said you choose the technology. And I said the technology that you're using should be simple, should be the one that you are sure of you can use it. So it is up to you to choose which one you want. If you want to use Zoom, you feel you're flexible with Zoom, then you go for it. If you want to use Google, go for it. It is you to choose. The one you think is simple and appropriate and is readily available. You check the resources that are around. That one I cannot tell you which one to use, but it is you to choose as an instructor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But all of them are appropriate for the classroom delivery. The one that any technology that you use is actually appropriate.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's a compliment related to that from Dr. Nafula Waswa. It says, thank you, Dr. for making it clear to us that we need not struggle with complicated technology, but make use of the simplest technology that will deliver the lesson effectively. Not all of us are IT experts. The purpose is to deliver learning effectively. Yes. Thanks. So that's a compliment. There is another question. What are some of the ways to enable the whole class move at par when some students do not complete task in time? Your experiences?
Experience, okay. Now, the question is some of the ways that you can engage the learners so that the students can move at par, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that the question? They can move together to complete the task.
Yeah.
As an instructor, I want to believe that when I'm choosing the content to be taught and I'm writing my lesson outcome, I'm considering all the factors. I'm considering the entry behaviors of all my learners. Because I'm looking at this class, remember I said we are all different and we can never be the same. We have those ones who will do the task very fast. We have those ones who will do the task averagely. And we have those ones who will move slowly. So the best way you can do is you give your lecture. Remember I said you have to do it in a sequential manner. The way you teach will determine whether all the learners will move with you or some will remain behind. So what you do is you choose the content appropriately. It all starts from the content. How do I choose the content? Definitely, if you're an instructor, you know the entry behavior of the learner. We know there is an A student, there is a B student, there is a D student. But we want these students to move together. We want these students to understand. So the way you formulate your lesson outcome will determine how you will end your lesson. So you'll find that if the students you teach and the student not understand, you know, you are the lecturer, isn't it? So the best you can do is you create more time for the learners. I don't know which lecturer can do that, but you can create more time for your learners The ones that you feel they have not understood, and you try to encourage, you try to give them more assignments so that they can move together, they can understand. Now, it is up to you, because we are saying that the instructor must be flexible. There is no way the students will get all the information. I'm not a perfect lecturer, because I even have students who fail. But I'm saying that you will be, the way you choose how to present your lesson will enable the learners to understand. Choose that material appropriately. I've already mentioned that. Look at the outcome of the lessons by considering the entry behavior of the learners. Look at the activities that you want to engage the learners. Can all the learners engage in the activities that you've selected? So if you feel that there are some learners who are having problems, you can start simplifying those activities. You can start simplifying those, whatever the content, so that the learners can move together. But I want to say, the way you choose your topic, the way you choose your learning activities, the way you write your outcome will determine how your learners will learn. Definitely all the learners will understand that those ones will have difficulties. But remember, I've said a good instructor must consider the individual differences. That is very important. You don't expect the learners to move together. No, there are those ones who will not do it. There are those ones who will even bring the assignment after the deadline. What do you do? So you have to know how to handle such a cases. And I want to believe if I'm very strict, the learners will do the right thing. You may teach, you find a student is quiet in the classroom. Others are contributing. The student is quiet. You as an instructor, find out why the student is quiet. Prompt that student to say something. You are helping that student at least to move with the others or to understand the content that you're teaching.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. There's another question from Dr.
There are so many questions.
Yes.
I'm getting tired.
Okay, maybe this is the last one we are taking, Doctor. This is from Dr. Bunyasi, and she's saying, in online instruction, we tend to be expository than heuristic, sometimes because of limited or expensive online engagement. How practical is the heuristic approach in online instruction?
Okay.
How practical is that?
Remember, I said a lot about heuristic approach at the beginning, isn't it? And I was discouraging you from using expository kind of teaching. Remember, expository, in fact, I don't like listening to those expository kind of presentation because you are not engaging the learners. And remember, I mentioned that in the 21st century, we moved away from the expository and we are now doing heuristic. Heuristic does not mean that you must have all the resources that you need. You as an instructor, you can be very, very innovative. Innovative here means I am a lecturer, I'm an instructor. I want to use lecture method. And I mentioned the lecture method. I want to use the lecture method. And I don't want to use the formal lecture which is expository, where the lecturer is doing most of the work and the learner is doing very little. Actually, you are not even being fair to this student because you are just producing what is in your head and pumping into this learner, and you expect this learner to produce at the end of when there is an examination or a cut. You are not being fair to this learner. So what we are saying is, with the little facilities that are available, with the little resources that are available, try as much as you can to engage or to use heuristic approach, which is learner-centered. Give the students a lot of work. Engage the students in very many activities. I want to believe, Dr. or Professor Weber, you are having a phone, and I want to believe it's a smartphone, isn't it? You can use that smartphone to record your lecture. Tell the students to listen to that lecture. They can use the smartphone to listen to that lecture and you spell out what you want them to do. You can take, for example, a film. I want to say a video. For example, you can record some information. I want to believe could be you are teaching types of songs. You can record. Even if it's church songs, you can go to church, you record that song concerning maybe the topic that you want to teach. Then you send that. on your smartphone to their learners. Your learners will be able to tell them, listen to this song and do 1, 2, 3. That is engagement. So it is you to be very creative. Use any available resource, online resources that is available to engage the learners. Are we together?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's beautiful. Dr. Miima, thank you very much. I think you've been talking for quite some time and we want to give you a break. I want to, Priscilla, is there anything you would like to say?
No, I just want to thank her. I hope everyone has enjoyed the session the way I have. Actually, from where I start, I should now be a better teacher. And I really want to thank you for emphasizing the fact that we need to be prepared before we go to class. The emphasis on looking at teaching as something that should be learner-centered. Also the aspect of taking care of individual differences and also teacher preparedness. Now, I believe that from this point moving on, we will now never go to class not prepared. We now know what to do. Thank you so much, Dr. Miima. That was great. It was powerful, and I am enlightened. Thank you, and thank you once again.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to have interacted with you. Those ones who wanted to see the face, now they can see it. Yeah, I'm so grateful. And I'll be available if you want more clarification. I think now I want to associate myself with the KCA. If you want more clarification, I'd be willing to be available and do more clarifications.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miima. So let me just bring this meeting to a close. I want to thank you so much for your time and the content you've been able to deliver to us. I want to thank Priscilla for the role she played in making us get in touch with you. And also I want to thank the DVC for his time in being with us in this particular session and the support from the university for this kind of webinars. I want to thank the audience for, we've had quite a number of people coming up. We were almost approaching 90. And wow. We are also streaming it live on Facebook. So I'm sure there are some people who are not in this room, but they're watching maybe via Facebook. I want to, so I really appreciate the audience for their time in this session. So before I close, maybe Professor Abuyeka, can you close, give us permission to close this session?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Dr. Miima, thanks very much for a very informative session and for being willing to respond to all our questions. And I think the dialogue will continue. I hope you'll be available to us anytime again when we need you for anything else.
That's okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. And with that, I think I'm going to end the meeting. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay. Thank you.